Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast Championship Week in the NCAA. And Week 14 served as a last chance for some teams to make the CFP, while others tried to improve their seeding in the brackets. And we had some crazy finishes with an unlikely playoff berth for one team, or I should say conference title game for one team. So for starters, we had Duke making the ACC title game, beating Wake Forest. So now we have Duke in the ACC title game against UVA. Oklahoma escaped against LSU at home, and the game was over in Ann Arbor by the third quarter. So before we examine title game weekend, let's take one last look at last week. Tyler, my dude, what is up, yo?
Not much. The rivalry weekend was, I think, what we expected, but some of those teams that were vying for playoff spots, they came in a lot closer than a lot of people thought. We talked about it last week, especially that Alabama-Auburn game, but there's a lot right on the week for them this week, so yeah, we can talk about it.
All right, man. So I'll start off first. So I had my Saturday spotlight last week because I kind of had the laser kind of pointed over at Miami because I feel like they've had to kind of prove themselves to kind of make this push. And they made a pretty strong final impression, I think, on the road against Pitt. They ran the ball well in the first half. They kind of imposed themselves on that Pitt defense. You know how Pitt is. They're big. They want to play with their front seven primarily and kind of choke you down. But from Miami, it was Malachi Tony once again, man. He does it all for them. Through a TD pass. He caught 13 passes for 126 yards and a touchdown. And then for Carson Beck, he just stayed hot as he's been doing. 23-29, 267, 3 TDs. And over the last 4 games, man, over 1,000 yards, 10 TDs, much fewer mistakes. For Pitt, I think Miami got in their heads, man. Just watching that game, how Miami was pushing them around, it got in their heads. You can see like the discipline kind of go all over the place with personal fouls, roughing the passers, just grabbing guys, and just making mistakes on the most minor things like field goals and stuff like that. So they put themselves down pretty bad, and they lost their composure. And then for Miami, they miss out big because they can't prove it one more time in the title game. So they're kind of playing bracket watch like everybody else. So shout out to Miami, but they got a long way to go.
Yeah, no, so my upset pick and game of the week, obviously, everyone knows I was watching the Ohio State Michigan game, but the big one for me, I think for a lot of people, was Texas A&M. And you know, there's that big brother little brother rivalry that goes there, and both teams like to talk a lot of trash to each other because they both think they're the best thing in Texas. How most Texans think that they are. But you know, Arch Manning, he played a complete game, and it was the things that we think about Texas A&M kind of showed face, like Marcel Reed, you know, one of those. He was up and down, and it all depends on like what level of competition he's playing. And Texas, you know, they played probably their best defensive game all year, especially playing against the number 3 team in the country. And you think about, you know, just like you said that Miami's bracket watching Texas, I don't think they're making it in, but you know they're kicking themselves losing to a Florida team when you know. They handily beat this Texas A&M team. They lost. They lost with 1 score by Ohio State in week 1, and then you know they got handed by Georgia. But you know it's just this was their most complete game. But what stinks is that it happened too far late in the season for them to come on. And now you know I think they're like the 3rd team out, but they are really on the outside looking in. I don't think they're getting in, but you know it was that big brother thing, and in Texas, you know they took care of business. So. Props off to them, but something crazy would have to happen for them to get in this week.
Yeah, and don't worry, more on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do think with Marcel Reed to cue Dennis Green, man, they are who we thought they were, and I've been kind of sus on them all season with Marcel Reed. And the thing for me was, how do you handle a defense that's good? Like, I mean, a really good defense is going to keep you contained in the pocket. Now, it wasn't necessarily Texas who kept him in the pocket; it was his injury, right? Once he got hurt in the game, you can see that okay, we're going to scale it back some, play more conservative with you, no quarterback design runs, and they had some momentum there, hitting the quick passing game, but. Once you got into halftime, something in Austin flipped for everybody. It flipped. And that's when you saw Texas all of a sudden get a running game. For Wisner, they haven't not had a 100-yard rusher all season until last Saturday when he goes off. And it took him a while, but once Arch got settled in, you saw these flashes that people talk about with him. That one throw he had to Enders was, I mean, everything, man. You saw him manipulate the pocket, slide his feet. I mean, just great fundamentals. Looked actually like his uncle's for a second.
Yeah.
It was crazy to watch that. And I think the dagger was that run, that big run that separated his athleticism is what separates him from these quarterbacks this year in college football. I mean, look at all the quarterbacks in the class, but this is what separates him: his ability to run. And once he had that, man, it was just like okay. Plus, you look at Reed; he ends the game with back-to-back picks, one to Michael Taft, one to Kobe Black. And Sarkisian didn't pull any punches. He was like, "We should be in there. We should be there." I think he has a pretty good point. Again, he's gonna need a lot of help, but I think it's important for them to do that and just make that statement that they did, which rolls into who either helped or hurt themselves the most. I'm gonna go with Texas, though, man. I'm gonna ride with Texas, and I do think that there's again, you got to do the math. Us as Cowboys fans are already doing the math for the playoffs right now,
Right,
but
yeah.
Texas is doing it too, and I think with all that they've done like you said, top three team in the nation, you beat them, and pretty convincingly, I think, with that second half.
Yeah.
And that's their third win over a top 10 team this season. They're only, I guess, you look at them playing Ohio State, I give them a notch in the belt for that. Yes, you lost the game, but you play them pretty competitively. I know it's early in the season. I completely understand that. But I feel like they gave them a pretty good match, a pretty good run. And I think when that team is healthy on defense, because we didn't have Anthony Hill last week, once they're healthy, if they got in, and again, the committee is bias, whatever.
Yeah.
You'd have a healthy team on defense. You'd have Arch Manning getting better at the right time of the year, and you'd have them all of a sudden with this burgeoning running game. I just think for them, there's a shot. And also what happens in this week's games of the conferences, of the ACC, the Big 12 as well, things could happen. Because now when you look at the board, if another team loses, you could have a situation where you're looking at a 2-loss BYU team, Alabama as well. It's just, yes, they need a lot of help, correct. But I do think as much damage as they did to themselves during the season, they helped themselves a lot last week by that game. Maybe too little, too late, but again, I think they got a shot.
So for who hurt themselves, helped themselves. This one was kind of hard for me, but as things have played out during this week, I think it makes things a little more clear. And that I think it's more funny than anything is the Ole Miss LSU drama right now. And especially with Ole Miss rolling into, I think that they are firmly seated in the playoff picture. But they lose their head coach. Lane Kiffin goes to LSU, and it's not in a good way either. He puts out, he basically locks himself in a house throughout this entire weekend. We get the stuff that happened, and then they turn around and say, he comes out with a statement saying like, "Oh, my players are begging me to stay through the playoffs," and then they're turning around and saying, "No, that's not what we did at all." So he's a liar. He's proven himself, and it seems like he does this everywhere he goes. I think people said he left Tennessee in the same fashion, and it's almost funny. Like I made the joke in the group chat. It's like an episode of One Tree Hill. It's just crazy how. Like there's so much drama around this guy all the time, especially for a team that is firmly in the championship run. Like they're seated in there, and it's kind of like what's going to happen with them? Who's going to be their head coach? Who's going to be the offensive coordinator? Because Charlie Weiss Jr. went with Lane Kiffin, but I heard that he's coming back for the playoffs, which that doesn't really make too much sense for me. But it's almost like you feel bad for those players. And that hurts them because that's unnecessary drama that's happened. Of course, you could blame Lane Kiffin. You could blame the schedule makers for college football. We see that a lot with where the transfer portal windows are and all of this stuff. And how there's multiple, especially like during the season, during the bowl season, and how these coaches and players are actually forced to do these things like at the end of the season when there's still bowl games and playoffs to happen. You could blame both sources, but it's just it's just a crazy wild time in the SEC. But I think we're all here for it because
So and I don't want to ever excuse Lane Kiffin. I do think you're right when it comes to this. Does happen a lot with him. Wherever he goes, whether he's head coach or coordinator, happens a lot. I forgot about Tennessee, but I remember USC as well. He's flirting a lot with the SEC. I forgot about Tennessee. So that's Tennessee, Ole Miss, and now LSU. Also USC as well. Let's not forget about that one either.
Correct.
And was head coach of the Raiders. And that was one of the most strangest firings I've ever seen. But a lot of it harkened back to his character of who he is. And I don't want to make the excuse for him for Lane Kiffin because you're right, 100%. However, this is a symptom of college football, as you said, with the transfer portal, with the urge to get things done now. This is going to keep happening over and over again. And poaching, I hate the idea, and this happened in the NFL too. If you're a coach looking for a head coaching job, if your team's in contention, you're hurt by that because you can't interview. You're obviously doing the right thing. You're honoring your contract with your current team, which makes sense. But college football has this thing of we have to hire a coach right now. We have to poach this guy out of his team right now and pry him from a program. The thing is, though, usually this is reserved for teams that aren't really playing for anything big, right?
Right.
This is the first time we've seen a team locked into the CFP, at least maybe a top eight seed, top six when everything's said and done, locked in, and the guy's still leaving. And by the way, he's not leaving to go to Penn State.
Right.
He's going right across the conference to somebody else. And it says a lot about Lane Kiffin, but it says also a lot about the culture of college football.
Right.
And I think, as Stuart Scott would say, don't hate the player, hate the game. The game sucks, but this player is kind of dirty as well. I just think it's a failure on both sides of a culture that I don't really like, but it's just crazy, man. It's just the symptom. And this is actually going to be a runoff segment here too, so you kind of stole my thunder on that one. But yeah, man, I'm not feeling the environment, and I'm not feeling what Lane's doing to the team and lying on his players. That's kind of smarmy, dude. Kind of nasty. So.
Yeah, we see that a lot with him. Like he does it in his press conferences with, going back and forth with reporters. He does it online all the time, and then it's just the kind of person he is. I guess I guess there has to be a special place in your heart for somebody like that. But it rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
It's who there is.
The way he is.
So even in Bama too, just want to throw that out there. Even as the OC of Bama, same thing.
Yeah.
Which rolls over into this week as well. And I'm sure this is your game, but go ahead, shoot for this week. What is your Saturday spotlight?
So it's a lot of people would say you would think I would say the Big Ten championship, but it's not, because those two teams, they're number one, number two. Yes, that's awesome for the Big Ten. But so you have the two Heisman finalists, you have the two of the best defenses in the country, two red hot offenses, two very good defenses. But in the scheme of things,
not be your Saturday spotlight,
right? No, but it's the fact that the game really doesn't matter. So like you're going number one, number two, and if number one beats number two, they're just gonna flip flop spots. I mean, if Indiana does beat Ohio State, that's what they're gonna do. The worst thing that happens is, they're probably, the loser is still probably going to get a bye week. I feel confident in saying that. So like if Indiana loses to Ohio State, I still think they're going to be in the top four. There's no way that they drop out and have to play the very first round. So I don't think it matters who the loser is of this game, but the big one for me would be Alabama, Georgia, because there's a lot that rides on the line here, because it is a rematch. And I kind of complained about it that like college football game day wasn't going to Indianapolis, but the fact that this is a rematch. But if Bama loses, I think there's what are they sitting at? They're sitting at 9 right now. I think that's what they're sitting at.
I'm telling you, out the door.
There's a lot that rides on that game, and you have like Texas licking their chops, you have Miami licking their chops, and then we're gonna talk about that Notre Dame thing a little bit later. But yeah, the big one for me is the retribution for Kirby Smart, who I hate talking about, to come back and beat Alabama this time, to knock them out, to knock their arch rival basically out of the playoffs. So I guess that's kind of what I think a lot of people are waiting to see, and that's Saturday at 4:00. So that's the one for me. Like I said, the Big Ten championship, I'm sitting in front of my TV gonna watch the whole game. But in retrospect of things that's going to happen for the playoffs, it really doesn't mean anything. So it's the SEC championship game for me.
I think that's true. So the drama around it is true. The stakes aren't there. So I can ride with you on that one. The stakes aren't there. However,
right,
when I look at what's on the field, the talent on the field, and I examine that, because I do put a lot of stock into the first game of the year. Matt Patricia, how he's planted his flag. I know you guys lost Heartline today, but you got a great win in Patricia. And when he's planted his flag in that conference as the guy, as I think he's probably one of the top defensive minds in all the country. You can throw in Brett Venables and guys like that, but he's probably at the top of the class. Talent withstanding, of course. It makes you ask certain questions too, because if, let's say, for example, looking at our quarterbacks, if Mendoza is who we think Arch Manning was going into this year as your top, prize quarterback of the nation, prize quarterback, top, let's say first round pick or whatever, if you will. If that's what he is, I want to see it. If Elijah
Right.
Surratt is a guy who's a, say, day two pick, second round, third round guy, if you're that, let me see. Let me find that out. If Egbenosin is what I think he might be, I want to see it. I want to see it all play out. Even Julian Sand as well. Indiana doesn't have the star power that you guys have, obviously, but he still is playing against an elite premier defense and allows you to, because of what you just said, right? The indifference of it doesn't matter. Then let's say and go. Let him go.
Yeah.
Let him go crazy. Let him throw it 40 times. Let's see what happens then, right? You expose your guys to a little bit of adversity in a game that quote unquote does not matter, but it's fun to see it. I think that's kind of what I'm looking at. And what X factors are they going to be able to? Not so much you guys. You guys are pretty established, but Indiana. Who are your X factors heading into the playoffs? Will it be? I like this guy a lot from out here in Maryland, but Roman Hemby, who's a transfer from Maryland, big guy, strong runner. I mean, just things like that. I think it's if you're trying to project 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, whatever down the line it is. I think this is why this game is a must-watch game, because if you are what you say you are, you got to prove it. And Cignetti talks that talk nonstop. So let's find out.
Yeah, and the one thing with Ohio State, we didn't cover them last week because it was the game. Obviously, I was watching it full force, but it was almost like a tale of two different games for Ohio State because obviously he had a very bad pick on their first drive, but then their defense settled down. It was 6-3, and they're going against Michigan, and Michigan, it's 2nd and 5. They get a holding penalty. And Ryan Day declines it because he knows they can't get 5 yards on third down.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the disrespect. So and they punt and they never really recover from it. And so defensive wise, Michigan goes into halftime with 108 yards rushing. They end the game with 100 yards rushing. Like Ohio State's defense is locked down in the second half. But the thing is like. We knew the weather going into that game because that's it's the outdoors. It was like 20 degrees. It started snowing. I don't know if you watched the game or not, but so it starts snowing. So saying he comes out of half and he just rips that 50-yard pass to Carnell Tate. And so and that's what Ohio State can do to you. They can throw it on you, but they were surprisingly very well at running the ball against Michigan. I'm not sure what the total yard is, but it was very good. And then when they wanted to, they bled them out because the drive that killed Michigan was a 20-play, 12-minute drive. Like you talk about soul snatching. You're soul snatching, and they showed that they could do it in two different ways against a very good defense. So I think obviously the weather played a big part in that, but we saw the $12 million quarterback, the unheralded Bryce Underwood, who's supposed to be like the next best thing. He was 8 for 18 for 63 yards, so an interception. But yeah, we saw Ohio State. Their defense started like almost like shell shock. They settled down. And they didn't even allow a touchdown in that game. 3 field goals. So it's that's big in the rivalry game. But yeah, like you said, going into this week, I want to see if they can stop Indiana's offense because we saw Indiana's offense kind of struggle against the Penn State defense a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
And that's a team that was a void of a head coach at the time, and so it's kind of see if Mendoza has those same struggles against a very good defense that can get after you. They're not gonna let the quarterback scramble around, and they're gonna hit you when they can almost every single time you see a corner blitz coming. It gets home.
It's probably too late.
Like you said, that is very intriguing part of that matchup is Indiana who they say they are all year, or is it going to be like last year when they stomped them out in the season? So very intriguing matchup.
Yeah, and I think that's why you got to tune in. And by the way, tune in to us too. So like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what to do here on the Freshman 15. So now that also takes us to our upset pick. I want you to go first on this one. I'm curious what your thoughts are for the upset pick.
Man, the conference games. The one I think it's the one that throws everything into a doozy for me, and I'm gonna take Duke over Virginia.
Same.
Because I want to see the chaos, and I want to see this committee have to work for something. So,
Actually do some
who,
work.
so are you taking Georgia to beat Alabama?
I would like to.
Okay, so
I
you're
want
talking
to,
you're
and
talking
they
about
will. They
Alabama
will.
possibly falling out. So now, are you going to take Texas Tech to beat BYU?
Absolutely smash them actually.
Okay, smash
Whoop
them
them.
again. So now, if Virginia loses and Duke wins, that's basically saying the ACC is not going to be represented in this
Exactly.
playoffs unless they decide to move Miami up.
Duke.
No, no, Duke can't make
Oh.
it. They're 7-5. So like that
Ah.
fourth conference would go to either James Madison or
Mm-hmm.
Tulane/North Texas, whoever wins that game. Whoever's ranked highest and wins that
Right.
championship, that group of four will be the highest seeded conference. So then you have the at larges. So the at larges, there's a lot of talk about like Notre Dame and Miami right now. And
Right.
rightfully so, because Miami week one beat Notre Dame, and they've had similar schedules along the way, strength of record, strength of schedule, all that. And you look at it, you look at it, and what I see is I think Notre Dame gets in over Miami only because they've improved so much over this year.
Exactly.
And so, does the head-to-head not matter? Well, of course it matters, but the scenario is
Context, man.
yeah, like it was CJ Carr's first game ever. He literally had 0 snaps ever in college football,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they lose by 3 that game. And then week 2 happens, week 3 happens, so they lose the next week to Texas A&M. Let's start off 0-2, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden they say, "Hey, CJ Carr is settled in. Here's Jeremiah Love. Here's Price.
Mm-hmm.
We figured this thing out." And it's obviously their schedule is like not as. I think it's very comparable to Miami, but it's just like they've taken care of
Nah.
business. Now what?
Nah. So, uh, okay, comparable to Miami in the sense of the teams you beat.
Correct.
Sure. Teams you've lost against.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The teams that lost against. So the team that Miami lost against is
Louisville.
SMU and Louisville.
Yeah. Can't fade
Right.
that.
You talk about Notre Dame's losses. That's Miami and Texas A&M.
Right.
But like right now, I would if I was any team in the top 10, I would be terrified to play against Notre Dame because that running game will literally kill you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't guard those two running backs, if they put them in both at the same time, man, you don't know what to do. But
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
a very well-rounded team, and like we've talked about this every year we've done this podcast. They start off slow and then they get hot.
Crank it up.
It's
Crank it up.
it is the Notre Dame way. But that's the chaos that's right there. Is like if Bama loses, if BYU loses, and if Virginia loses, what do they do with, let's say, Texas? Did
I'm
Texas,
telling you.
Miami? But I think Notre Dame's going to stay entrenched. But I'd be very curious to see what you do with Miami, how you feel about them, or Texas, how you feel about them just beating the number 3 team this past week. And what have you done for me lately sticks out all the time when you're talking about these rankings. Because like we said, you can't compare Notre Dame week 1 to what they are now because they take care of business now. Texas just beat the number 3 team in the country. So
That's what it.
where does that put them? And that's like the super intriguing part. But there's things that have to fall into place, obviously, but it's
Mm-hmm.
super intriguing to see where this actually happens. And then you have a team like Vanderbilt who says they're suing the NCAA right now
For what?
because they said the past 3 weeks they have won all their games and they didn't move a single spot in the rankings. So they are
Play better
suing.
teams, dude.
Yeah,
Play
yeah.
better teams.
I mean, they wiped the floor with Tennessee. Good on them.
It's
But
Tennessee.
yeah,
It's Tennessee.
but it's one of those things where the SEC has guys ranked where they're not supposed to be because I don't think the Volunteers had any business being ranked 19th this late in the season.
That's window dressing for them.
Yep.
And so here's the thing: when all the smoke clears, right? We settle all the dust. I'm pretty sure it's going to go like this weekend. And just for those that are curious, I got Duke winning over UVA, just because of just to throw this out there to complete the ensemble here. Darian Mensa, they lost to them 2 weeks ago. They played pretty bad against UVA, where they couldn't do anything at all. Did you know? Did you know that Duke is actually the 16th ranked offense in terms of passing in the NCAA?
I did not know that. Nope.
See what I'm saying? Like they played so poorly that they just weren't themselves against UVA. They're going to be UVA. Darian Mensa is going to have a pretty nice game. They've got solid receivers. Their edge rusher Vincent Anthony has been ice cold, but he's a long prospect, long arms, can rush the passer. Been on a cold streak, but I think this is the week he bounces back. If you make Chandler Morris have to throw the football, you got a shot. You're a pretty good offense throwing the football. You guys can score points. It's right there for Duke to win. I feel like it's very, very plausible. And this is why this hurts Miami as well, because now your conference looks like crap. If Duke wins your conference, yeah, you guys are losing that bid, likely speaking. So, assuming chaos happens, which we both want that, we both want the same thing.
Yeah.
Except I want Indiana to win just because it'd be fun, but whatever. If we get that situation happening, right? So then you have Alabama loses, you have Miami out in the cold, BYU gets smashed. It's got to be Texas, man. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who else could it be? Like what else does Texas have to do? Texas has beaten A&M. They've actually, well, see, 3 losses, okay, but you've beaten A&M. The Florida loss does suck. I get that part. It's not as bad as losing to Louisville, not as bad as losing to SMU.
Right.
Bar none. So your last team in the door has got to be the Longhorns, right? I mean, I would say that's pretty fair.
Yeah, the thing is so if Alabama loses, I think they're sitting at 9 right now. If Alabama loses, do you drop them all the way out, or do you keep them in as the 3-loss team because they'll have 3 losses? Do you keep them in as the 3-loss team, or do you allow Texas to jump them for what they did against Texas A&M? That's the very intriguing part to me. Super intriguing because Texas is sitting home saying we should be in. And a lot of people are saying that because they beat Oklahoma. They played Ohio State close, but that was Sands' first start. I will say that, and the first game of the season is always a rough one for every single team, unless you're playing like Chattanooga State in your Alabama. But it's very intriguing to see. Do they think that highly of is the star power there for Alabama? Or does the prestige of Texas supersede the 3 losses of their 3 losses supersede the 3 losses of Alabama? I think that's the very intriguing part for me.
You answer your own question, and when you look at Bama's schedule, and again, you play who you play, and I get that part. When you look at them, they also have a lot of empty calories on their schedule as well. Right.
Too many close games for me. Too many close games.
And more on that too is that okay. So you had the close call against South Carolina. You have that one, right?
Yeah.
You lost Oklahoma. Fair enough. Alabama. So let's not forget that. Lost Oklahoma as well.
Yep.
You then got fat against Eastern Illinois just a couple weeks ago. You snuck away against Auburn. So now we have that one. We have Auburn. We have the close call against Missouri. And you played UL Monroe in week 2. I just think a lot of this is empty calories, man. And no, the prestige, could you answer your own question? It's the prestige of Texas. But again, on the field, I think Texas has one of the more intriguing teams as far as their defense, as far as the quarterback's potential. If they get the running game there, I just think they have more to work with. And you have Ty Simpson. And this is in sidetracking here. This might be the most lackluster Bama running game I've seen in a long time from that program. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When you break this down, man, to me, I don't think they're one of the best teams in the country. And I think the race that we're not running Texas versus Bama here. Should Bama lose, of course. I'm assuming they lose. I'm running more so Bama and Miami. And if they lose also, your BYUs of the world. It's that group of teams there. It's for me, it would be assuming that these teams lose. Again, I want to reiterate this. But assuming these teams lose, it would be for me at the 12th spot, Texas. And if you want to drop them, I don't think they can go below. Well, you have the auto bid by possibly JMU, Notre Dame at 11. So you have Texas, Notre Dame at 11. Yeah, so there you have it, man. I just think if chaos ensues, you got to have in Texas. And I think no matter what happens, Notre Dame's in. If things don't break that certain direction, Notre Dame's safe. They're in either way.
Yeah, I think they're sitting at 10 right now, so I think they're sitting pretty. Like you said,
Join the
BYU.
conference, man. Have some guts.
Yeah, so just establish this one more time for complete chaos. You need Bama to lose, you need BYU to lose, and you need Virginia to lose, and then the chaos
Forgot about
happens.
UVA.
I think that's what I'm rooting for this weekend because I think everybody wants chaos, and I think a lot of people in the southern half of the United States are polling to if that happens. I'd say the central southern United States. They are making a plea on the internet for Texas to get into the playoffs. So it's gonna be very intriguing, especially with Miami. Their losses are nowhere near comparable to what Texas's were. But
I'm with you on
they
that
want to
one.
state their case too. But I think it's the prestige of Texas. If anything happens, it's the prestige of Texas that gets into there over like a three-loss Kalen DeBoer-led Alabama team.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at these games now for Saturday. So you have a 12-point spread with BYU and Texas Tech, as one should expect.
Right.
You have a 2.5-point spread with Georgia and Alabama playing in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz, which again I think that's a generous spread, but what do we know just yet? Then we have, and I think hold on a second, and then last we have, of course, your game. But then you have Duke and UVA, and again, that spread is close. I believe it's 3.5 in favor of UVA. I just think you have this situation happen, man, where chaos happens. And I believe last year we had this happen where Arizona State won the bid based on winning the conference title, and we were gunning for either, I want to say it was Iowa State and choked it away, or Texas Tech. No, Iowa State choked it away.
Iowa State.
Also choked it away was Colorado, who had an outside chance after they beat. Trying to think. They beat Oklahoma State and blew it and lost it to Kansas. So, yeah, man. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's good until the final week of the season, man. That's why we do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the last season for the 12 teams too, because there's too many teams vying for that last spot. And to make it easier, I think they go 16 again, and then that's all money grab. But yeah,
You're
it's
never gonna get it right.
championship weekend is here. It's gonna be fun, and I literally hope those three games pull that way, just so we can see what they do on Tuesdays when they do those announcements.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so just so
Tuesday.
I could see what actually happens because that's gonna set the internet on fire.
Make it a parlay, man. You know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So for my dude Tyler Moore, I'm LP Cruz. This has been the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast. Peace.
Peace.